Somersham is a village that has a population of just under 4,000. It's got quite a rich history, actually. We're about 6 miles north of St Ives, on the edge, the sort of southern edge of the Fens. It's got a rich history in the sense that the lords of the manor in medieval times were the bishops of Ely, and they had a very impressive summer palace on the south side of the village. There's no remains of it now, unfortunately, but it did have an influence on probably the size of the church in the village, which is quite large for a village of this size. The church is 13th century. It's changed a great deal over time. It started in the 12th century as just the chancel, and then it's been extended, added to, altered. And in fact, the last alterations to the church were in 2013. We've got a meeting room in the vestry area, the tower area really is the base of the tower. And also we had a sort of refreshment area established at the back of the church and a children's area on. The Friends group started from the fact that one of the church wardens came back from a church warden's training day. He came and talked to the PCC about this, and a small group of people who were interested got together, sorted out exactly the pros and cons of having a Friends group, took their findings back to the PCC. The PCC approved of that, and therefore we had an initial meeting when the Friends was actually formed. That was in May 2010. Well, the primary aim of the group is to raise funds for various aspects of the church: the maintenance of the church, the repairs to the church, the restoration of parts of the church when needed, and also improvements to the church. Is primarily for fundraising, although we do other things. One of our aims is to actually get more events on in the church, like concerts, exhibitions. We also have a garden party for members every year. That's something that we've established more recently. We've got about 120 members at the present time. So our membership comprises of people who live in the village, people who used to live in the village, people who've got a historical link with the church in some way. Perhaps their ancestors were prominent people in the church. We've got members who live certainly in various parts of this country. I think we might have somebody who actually is a member who lives in Australia. Principally, we sort of say that the Friends group is for people who have an interest in this historic building, which is the oldest building in Somersham. Well, I think we worked together very well. There were some initial difficulties when we were establishing a constitution for the Friends in terms of responsibilities, so that the PCC wanted to make it quite clear that the Friends group were there to support the building effectively, but that it was the PCC that had the responsibility for doing things in the building and outside the building, for that matter. Our constitution has the incumbent rector and at least one church warden are trustees of the Friends. The other trustees are elected at the annual general meeting each year. We have about 8 trustees, some of which are members of the congregation, and others who are nothing to do with the congregation. Well, I say nothing to do with the congregation, but do not worship in the church. It's important, really, that the PCC members and the church members are aware of the requirements of the church, both as a building and keeping the building in a good state of repair. Like any church building, we have a quinquennial inspection, and sometimes the things that the architect lists as essential things come as quite a financial shock, perhaps, to the PCC, and they've got to try and deal with it in some way that they can. To have the Friends as if you like, a fundraising arm is incredibly useful. Over the years that we've existed, we've actually raised about something like 35,000 to 40,000 pounds for the church projects, and those projects in themselves have actually been somewhere in the region of 175 to 200,000. The fact that we are there with a pot of money that we can actually give to the PCC enables the PCC to go out to other grant organisations, both locally and nationally, and get a lot of work done that they probably wouldn't have been able to do. So, for example, we've had new lighting in the church, we've had new heating in the church, we've done repairs to the south porch of the church, which had to be re-roofed, the timbers were all rotten in that. We've also completely renovated the tower clock. Those are things which the PCC would have found very, very difficult to do otherwise. The Friends, as individuals, or as a group, I suppose, help with things like where there are events that the church holds. They will act as volunteers to supplement the congregation. They will help in church working parties around the churchyard when we do some tidying up, etc. One thing that the Friends have done is they've actually been around the whole of the churchyard and taken down details of all the headstones and produced an index which is available for the general public. It's in the church, and people who visit the church for reasons of family history find that incredibly useful. We've just had a flower festival. That's why the flowers are going to look a bit dog-eared, etc. at the moment. But, in things like that, people will come and they'll help with refreshments. They'll help with perhaps meeting and greeting. That's another way in which Friends will volunteer. One thing we do is we have a produce stall at the centre of the village once a month on a Saturday morning. We run that every month from March till October. I think we raise about £100 every time we have a stall, so it's quite steady stream of income. And we also have a licensed lottery, what we call our 100 Club. Not everyone belongs to that, but we have about, I suppose, 50 to 60 members of that, and that raises about £1,500 per year. We try to hold at least one, if not two, concerts a year. We've held exhibitions, so we've had heritage exhibitions. We've also had art exhibitions where we invite local artists to come and exhibit their work. We charge them a hanging fee. They give us a commission of their sales. So that's a very worthwhile thing. Both, it's not just about making money; it's about involvement of the community. So that's important. I think the important thing, in a way, is that as far as membership of the Friends is concerned, our application form states quite clearly a number of things. It actually states what we are, what we're doing, what we try to do, for example, concerts and other things that I've mentioned, but also what we don't do. And that's quite important as well, because and if I tell you what those things are, one is we don't give any money for the running of church services, for heating in the church, for lighting in the church, for the rector's salary, and for that matter, no money goes directly from us to the Diocese of Ely. I think that is important because people want to feel that their money and their effort is going into the building. We've got to remember that the Friends is really about the building. We issue a sort of quarterly newsletter to all of the Friends, so they're aware of what's going on, aware of what projects we might be funding in the future, and so on. I just email it out to everyone who's got an email address. Anyone who's not got an email address, they get a printed copy. You get an application form. You pay £5 a year. You can either fill in a standing order or you pay annually. And we've got a membership secretary who takes care of all those things. It's fairly straightforward. If you're really that keen, you can even pay a life membership of £100, and we do have quite a number of life members. I think making sure that you have got a strong interest from the church. So, for example, as I said, we've got an incumbent and a church warden as now a part of our trustees, and I think that's essential. And I also think it's essential that you have people who are not members of the congregation, who don't worship at the church. So you've got a balance between the two sides, if you like. Establish what you're trying to do and the things that you do not intend to do. We have regular trustee meetings, so that involves the personnel I've just mentioned. Also, in recent years, the chairman of the Friends has been invited to become a member of the standing committee of the PCC, which is sort of like a subcommittee of the PCC. Each side is able to express their views in a proper regulated way, if you like.